Hello. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Canting Club. The unloved Carignan, which is the grape we have for you this week. 40 years ago, this was the commonest black grape in all Europe, covering huge swathes of southern France and northern Spain. Even by the turn of the century, after 3 decades of government incentives to grub it up and plant something else, this was still France's #1 red grape. And the reason for that extraordinary popularity is its extraordinary productivity. Given the chance, Carignan can produce more than 4 times as much wine per acre as, say, Cabernet Sauvignon. Now this made it very popular with the peasant farmers of France's Midi, the Languedoc-Roussillon area. The problem was that this is a very hard grape to get ripe, and if you don't, its searing acidity and tough, stalky tannins combine with the dilute fruit caused by overcropping to produce wine that's really very nasty indeed. Now this didn't matter if the EU were going to buy up all the wine you couldn't sell, and so most Carignan ended up in the EU wine lake. Any that was ripe enough to drink found its way into blends where it adds colour and acidity and tannin. But old vine Carignan can, if you keep the yields down, produce some really lovely wine. And today in the Languedoc, a new breed of winemaker are championing this much maligned variety and even making single varietal unblended wines from it. And this is one of those. Produced from 40 to 60-year-old vines on the slopes around the village of Clusy in the western Hérault. The winemakers have chosen the oldest vines and the sunniest sites, and they've used all the techniques to concentrate the ripeness in the grapes, like green harvesting. And they've succeeded, just. The moderate alcohol level of 12.5% shows how difficult it is to get Carignan ripe, even in the heat of the Midi. It's a deep ruby colour, which you'd expect from the vine's reputation. In fact, it's not quite as deep as I was expecting. I suspect they've limited the skin contact in order to reduce the extraction of tannins. There's a lovely, fresh, brambly nose there, with some dried figs, a very Carignan characteristic, coming through as well. And that's supported by subtle vanilla oak and a spike of pungent dried herbs. On the palate it's clean and very crisp, with black fruits, mostly black cherries and some blackberries. And there's a savoury and herby note there. On the finish I detect black olives, and also on the finish the firm tannins come through, but thankfully these are fine and ripe, and all you get is a pleasing touch of bitterness about the finish, which is very Moorish. Please try some more. There's lovely balance here. The winemakers have struck gold in getting enough fruit concentration out of these old vines to balance the crisp acidity, and adding some complexity with oak treatment without getting too much vanilla into the mix. And most importantly, controlling those infamous tannins, mostly by getting the grapes ripe enough in the first place. This is a lovely, savoury, food-friendly red that's really easy to drink a lot of. So it's probably just as well it's only 12.5%. Cheers.